Should be pretty much on market wise there. Hello, hello, hello. Very good afternoon and welcome to today's live stream here from Mark Vogan Weather HQ in the far north of Scotland. Hope you're all well. We have currently three current viewers at the moment. So a very warm welcome to Mark Kinnish. Thanks, Lindsay, for moderating this afternoon as usual. I do greatly appreciate your time. We will slowly warm things up, see if we can get more than three people on the live chat, and we will look at today's content. Very, very busy current pattern, and it has been a busy week of weather across the planet. We will look at that in quite a bit of detail. Obviously, the first half of June has been rather chilly across the northwest of the continent, while it has been very, very hot across the southeast of the continent, where temperatures have been as high as 45 degrees Celsius, or close to that anyway, down in parts of Greece and Turkey. So we will just slowly wait for a few more folks to join in this afternoon, and hope you're all safe and well wherever you are. Current conditions here in Edmonton, Ross, are generally quite cloudy, feeling rather cool as well, with a lack of sunshine at the moment. But it certainly has been a rather wet morning here in the north. Let me know in the comments section, the live chat, what your weather conditions are like. I would imagine it is rather similar to what we're getting here. So Mark says, "Hi Mark, you were right about the balance with the weather. We had a few years of dry weather. Now it's wetter. In the end, it'll get dry again. It does. It goes in cycles, I think. Do you agree?" Yes, very much. I very much agree with that, Mark. That it's all cycles, and it basically goes round over the course of months and years. Obviously, we've got a very warm Atlantic as well, so that is probably a contributing factor to the amount of rain that we've seen in the last 12 or so months. So yeah, but yeah, we'll try and see if we can get a few more folks on board this afternoon before we delve into today's content. Let me know, like I say, in the live chat what your conditions are like, where you're located as well. That would help, and we'll take it from there. So hope you're also enjoying your weekend, Mark. What have you been up to, my friend? Anything exciting? For myself, we've been working on trying to get my boot unlocked. Yeah, it's been an eventful afternoon, Sunday afternoon, that you want to sit and relax with an ice cream, sitting overlooking the water, but no, we are sitting trying to get the boot open of the car. That's what happens when you've got a 12-year-old car, I suppose. So, but yeah, things are rather quiet this afternoon. I notice here, folks are probably busy, maybe watching the Euros. I didn't get the chance to see Scotland on Friday night because I was working, and I'm rather glad I didn't get to see it because it looked as if it was a bit of a disaster, to say the least. But we have got 14 concurrent viewers now on the live stream this afternoon. A very warm welcome to you. Do me a favor, hit the like button. I would greatly appreciate your support. It lets YouTube know, and it also lets myself know that you're enjoying the content here in Mark Vogan Weather on YouTube. So yeah, very busy past 24 hours or so. Not one but two videos yesterday. Did a rather long-winded tropical outlook as per usual yesterday, looking at the prospects of development within the western Gulf of Mexico, but also I did a European outlook, which is not normally the case, but it was a bonus video because I felt a little bit it was cut short on Friday, so I thought I had the time to be able to do another European outlook yesterday. So check that out because it looks as if we've got a significant pattern change starting to develop. We're seeing the effects now taking place over North America, and that will have downstream influence over the Atlantic and into the UK, Ireland, and European weather pattern. Obviously, it's been quite a distinct northwest to southeast contrast. We've actually got a temperature at Emily Moor in north central England, an anomaly of nearly 4 Celsius for the first half of June, which is rather stand out. Now, the majority of the UK is generally between 1 and 2 degrees Celsius below the average for the first 15 days of the month. And I do expect to see a recovery during the second half. And that has been very much the mainstay of my June outlook, that we would see a cool start and a warmer second half of the month. Also wetter as well as warmer. I also want to say, by the way, that we'll welcome. We're glad to see that Gavin Partridge is back home again after his fractured ankle. He must have spent over a week in hospital. Actually, it must have been quite a nasty break, and he spent time in hospital, and then he had to get surgery on that ankle. But it's good that he's back, and he's also back on the channel again, providing content for his own subscribers. But it's good to see him back in business once again. We continue to think about him and his recovery, and hope he gets on the mend pretty soon. I think he's doing not too bad from what I can gather. But it's good to see Gavin back home again and back providing videos for his channel. So yeah, let me see what else we've got going here, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts. But certainly it looks as if, unless this has yet to refresh or what. Oh, here we go. Yes, I didn't actually see any activity on the live chat, but I've actually got it now. So a very warm welcome to Sink Splint. Very good afternoon to you, John Baxter, Paul James, like I've already said, Mark Kinnish, Richard Trott. We've got, did I say John Baxter? I might have done. So yeah, very warm welcome to Adam Blunston. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. We've got 16 concurrent viewers, like I've already asked. Do me a favor, hit that like button. It lets myself and YouTube know that you're enjoying the content. It helps the algorithm of the channel as well. Massive thank you to everybody, by the way. I've noticed the views have been really picking up again. There was a little bit of a lull during the latter half of April and through the month of May. Quite typical, but I've noticed there's been an uptick in both views and subscribers in recent days. So a massive thank you to everybody for your ongoing support. It continues to drive me on in terms of providing content. So I really do greatly appreciate it here. So let me get into the live chat here, see what the folks are saying. Let me know in the comments what your conditions are like. Richard says that good afternoon, Mark. Nipping in and out of the chat as it's Father's Day, and very also thank you for reminding me, Richard. Happy Father's Day to my own dad and to all the dads out there. Hope you're all enjoying your afternoons and getting spoilt. But also my parents' wedding anniversary. April weather here, sun, then showers, then sun, laugh out loud. So let me see here. Currently sunny here, Mark, 16 degrees. Very wet here yesterday in the Wirral. So we've got John Baxter, latest AMOC, and remember he has to tame it down. Right, okay. Let me see here. Hi everyone, and so Adam Blunston says hi everyone, and hi Mark Vogan. There's a sign of drier and warmer towards the end of June. There certainly is, Adam, and we'll look at that in a little bit of detail today. Obviously, it's a global weather view, so we are going to kind of skim over that, looking at the prospects of potential warm summer-like weather towards the end of June. That is going to be honed in on, and that will be the big talking point in the upcoming week's European outlooks, obviously between Monday and Friday is the European outlook traditionally, and we'll be looking at that in quite a bit of detail. Hello to Stephen this afternoon as well. Back to more typical summer conditions, but should be noted current air still originates from Greenland, and only difference is it's taken a longer sea track. That is very, very true, Stephen, and you make a very good point, my friend. Yes, area of low pressure that is dominating, kind of dumbbelling. There's actually a couple of centers that are kind of spinning around the main trough that's kind of trapped between high pressure both to the northwest and to the east at the moment. That will eventually move out of the way. We are actually going to see another feed of slightly colder air coming down, and then it's all about change. And it's going to take a little while. We're still going to see below average temperatures probably for the next 5 to 7 days or so. But I think it's really once we hit like kind of the final week of June, we should start to see the trough digging over the Atlantic, and that will start to build the heights over the UK, over Ireland, over Western Europe. And there is kind of rumblings now about the potential of a heat wave developing over Western Europe through the final week or so of June here. So yeah, very interesting. More traditional summer-like weather, I would say, is on the way. We are going to see a potential heat wave, or we will see a heat wave that is building over the eastern half of the United States, and that is really going to start to kind of trigger that jet. We've seen that over the Pacific Ocean. We're seeing it with the contrast in temperature over Canada and the United States, and that is then going to extend its way out over the Atlantic, deepen an area of low pressure over the North Atlantic. And as that does so, it digs the trough, it digs further, chillier air further west over the Atlantic, and therefore further east. You're then pulling our air in from subtropicals, from Africa, from southern portions of Europe, the Mediterranean, and it's lifting it north. So we've got 21 concurrent viewers at the moment here. Let me see here. What else? The stuff with regards to AMOC, John. To be honest with you, I'm not overly sure about that one with regards to the collapse of the jet stream. I think that's what you're kind of talking about. It's a little bit over my head if I'm being honest with you, but I do mention certain aspects. I think at the moment, certainly, I don't think there's a collapse of the of the jet, the Gulf Stream, should I say? But who knows with time. Ian McKee, very warm welcome to you, my friend, as well. Thanks for tuning in. I think that summer will continue from late June into all the way through till the end of August, I believe, giving us a 41 Celsius with drought conditions. I certainly would believe that when I see it, Ian. Who knows what the weather will throw at us, but personally, I doubt very much that we're going to get anywhere near 40 Celsius. But listen, who knows? Given what we've seen in recent years, given that the maximum UK temperature threshold, the ceiling has been continuing to rise, helped probably by the very, very warm Atlantic waters and the overall warming that we're seeing on a global scale here. So yeah. But obviously, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I do want to stress that everybody that listen, unless you're a scientific expert, none of us essentially are experts here. I don't think anyway. We all are doing our own research and different avenues, etc., etc. But at the same time, we're all open to our own opinion, and let's respect one another's opinion. That's what I would like to kind of suggest to everybody. So yeah, let's. It's approaching 4:15, so let's have a look at the content for today. This is the current C-DAS 0.5 data, looking at the past 7 days. So we will actually look at the year to date because we're approaching pretty much the halfway point of 2024. So we'll look and see the areas of warm versus cool, and I would pretty much guarantee there's more warmth than there is cool around the planet. We know that. We'll also look at the June so far because it's been a rather interesting month, and I have been meaning to say for the last couple of videos now talking about an interesting situation with regards to the CET, or the Central England temperature. There's an interesting tweet by our friend Richard Trott looking at that. We will try and look at that because I've written down notes. He's always he's pointed out to me a couple of times. You need to write notes. Like if you keep forgetting stuff, you need to write down and remind yourself to say something, and he is spot on. But it's I then forget to actually write the notes, and therefore I'm not helping myself in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, let's have a look and see. This is the past 7 days. Obviously, there's a lot quite interesting areas of cool versus warm. We've got quite a cool area across to the south of the equator over Africa at the moment here, through the equatorial belt itself. Southern portions of India is actually starting to cool down. Looks as if the monsoon season may finally start to kind of lift northwards over the next couple of weeks here. We've had quite a hot spell across parts of China. Parts of many parts of Russia is running firmly below above average at the moment here. Interesting anomaly actually over Canada and the eastern United States in the last 7 days. It's been quite a cool week across the majority of Canada, as you can see. UK and Ireland firmly below average here. Let's look specifically at the continent of Europe. Look at South America continuing to see very warm conditions. Most of Australia is warmer than average as well. That being said, there's parts of Australia where it's seen some of the coldest daytime highs in a few years. So this is Europe over the last 7 days or so, in quite a large area of below average, if you notice here, extending all the way east to the Baltic states, to Poland, into eastern parts of Europe here. But then obviously you get down towards the Balkans and Greece, Turkey, etc., etc. Most of Ukraine is firmly above average for the past week or so here, but certainly the anomalies are rather interesting. Look at Spain and Portugal. That obviously was they were talking about some fairly warm conditions during the first week or so of the month, but in the last 7 days, anyway, it has been anything but hot. We've seen the cooler air that's been driving south over the UK and Ireland continuing to progress further south over the continent, and therefore we've seen much wetter conditions. Flash flooding in Murcia, for example, parts of the Balearic Islands has been hammered with heavy flood and rain in recent times as well. So yeah, it has been a pretty wild past, several weeks in fact for the majority of the continent. We've had a lot of strong blocking to the north, areas of low pressure trapped underneath. UK has seen its fair share of rainfall. I think June so far is playing out quite well with a dry, cool first half and likely wetter, warmer second half to June. So let's have a look and see what the month so far has been looking like for the continent itself. And you can see here firmly below average, generally 1-2 degrees below average. But Emily Moore in Yorkshire, seeing I think it's minus 3.8 Celsius or minus 3.6, but certainly a very, very anomalous area of cool in the heart of England for the first 15 days of the month here. But this is, you can see here that warm anomaly over Iberia continuing to get chipped away with the chilly, wet conditions that we're seeing. Much of France, the Low Countries, Germany, extending all the way down almost to central areas of Italy is firmly below average. But then you get further south over Italy, it's warmer than average. The Balkan region here, Greece, Turkey, up that eastern side of the continent, we've got firmly warmer than average conditions. Let's have a look and see at the global picture for the first half of June, and we can see a very, very cool anomaly over particularly the northern half of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. We've got an anomaly here of between 4 and 6, even 7 Celsius below average for a 2 week period. That's quite a notable anomaly here, and the greatest anomaly compared to average anywhere on the planet, with the exceptions of arguably parts of Antarctica. But we've got some quite big extremes here in Antarctica between below average versus warmer than average. Still very, very warm across South America, if you notice here. Australia's got quite an east-west split, if you notice. Then we've got warmer than average extending through Indonesia, up into Southeast Asia, the Malay Peninsula, southern portions of India below average, but that is because we're starting to see the onset of the monsoon, especially across more southern areas of India, still to reach the more northern portions, albeit we've seen Cherrapunji seeing some mega rains in recent times. Nearly 1,000 millimeters of rain, by the way, fallen in Cherrapunji in the last 48 hours. Remarkable stuff. But obviously, this is the capital of wet anywhere on the planet. Large areas of Russia seeing warmer than average. A little area across north central Russia is below average at the moment here. Very, very warm compared to average across the northeast of Siberia, where we've seen some record breaking warm conditions. That southwestern corner of China remains below average. Parts of coastal southeast China below average. We've got warmer than average across Japan here into the Koreas. Then slightly further north in Inner Mongolia of China, we're seeing slightly below average conditions here as well. The southwestern half of the United States has seen some very hot conditions, albeit we're going to see a trough now starting to drop into the northwest, and we're going to see the high building eastwards, and we'll have 3 or 4 days probably in a row, 90 plus anywhere from North Florida all the way up into New England. So we're going to see some very, very hot conditions. The hottest of the year so far, arguably, is going to be moving eastwards over the United States here. Looking specifically at, we've also looked at Europe already, so there's no point in doing that. Let's have a look and see year to date temperature anomalies. And this is for Europe so far, and obviously firmly warmer than average. Let's have a look at the global picture. You can see here that, again, like I said, it's easier to pick out the cool anomalies as opposed to the warm anomalies, because there is the majority of the land areas of the planet is firmly warmer than average. Now, interesting enough, in terms of the first 6 months of the year, we've actually got a slightly cooler anomaly across northern Australia, close to average in a few spots, but generally warmer than average. Then we've got that area of southwestern China that kind of stands out like a sore thumb. Africa, there's a few areas within equatorial Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, that may have close to average conditions, but generally warmer than average as well here. And yeah, there's a few pockets in Western North America that's average, slightly below average. But generally speaking, Argentina and central and southern Chile is arguably average to slightly below average for the first 6 months of the year here. So yeah, let me have a quick check here and see what we're looking at here. I want to show you something specific, which is quite interesting here. This is an interesting tweet here by our friend Richard Trott, talking about the Central England temperature, because it is very, very interesting to see the situation that we've got going at the moment in terms of the temperature anomaly. Remember, we've had the warmest May on record according to the Met Office, and I know that is something that gets people upset, but there is no point in denying some of the facts. But this is an interesting one here. So Richard says almost at the halfway stage of June, and June could end up cooler than May on the CET based on the latest outlook. Yes, a long way out, but still something remarkable could be about to happen. Only twice has this happened where the CET is cooler in June as opposed to May, the preceding month. And this has only happened back in 1749 and 1833. So obviously this is extending back a few hundred years to the last time this has occurred. So that would certainly be very, very interesting if that is the case here, that we see a below average June. Now, based on the outlook, looks as if the next 5-7 days is still going to remain average to slightly below average. So therefore, my thinking would be that it would take a heck of a lot of a heat spell during the final week or so of June to see the anomaly turn around to warmer than average. So therefore, and especially with the firmly below average temperatures over England and Wales, for example, and that CET area, it's going to take a lot for that cold anomaly to switch around. So therefore, that is quite possible to happen. It's quite possible to happen that we are going to see that taking place here. So that is quite a unique thing to see, especially at the moment here when we're seeing month after month, year after year, firmly warmer than average. But we do get these blips. We do get these months where it's slightly colder than average, even though the overall backdrop is firmly warmer than average. And I think the last time the CET was below average was December 2022. I think I'm right in saying that. That's quite significant, by the way, that we have to go back over 2 years ago for the last time the CET was below average for a month. So that is quite interesting to know. So yeah, very interesting stuff. Let me have a quick scan through the. Remember, folks, I noticed here there's quite a few deleted messages. Um, try let's try our best to respect everybody's opinion. I don't want folks getting themselves a little bit overexcited with opinion. Remember, we're all entitled to our opinion, and let's respect one another's opinion. So I would like to kind of have a gentle reminder of that. Very good afternoon to Gavin. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. I hope you're well. Hope your recovery is progressing well as well. Did give you a little mention at the beginning of today's live stream. So yeah, thanks very much for tuning in, Gavin. I don't know if you are live this afternoon at 6 o'clock, but if you happen to be, I do encourage everybody to tune in to Gavin's live stream. So anyway, let me see here. I've got some notes written down here, and I want to go through and show what's happening. So we've obviously got the distinct northwest cool versus hot southeast anomaly here. Now, as we go through the next little while, we are going to see changes take place. I want to very, very briefly explain why that is going to be the case. Now, the Mann-Julian oscillation, which is an area of enhanced convection that cycles around, generally does a full loop of the planet within a 30 to 60 day period. And you've got an active phase and an inactive phase of that pulse of energy that rotates around the planet. Where it's an active phase, you enhance precipitation in a given area. And what we are seeing is the MJO moving into the Western Atlantic Basin, and therefore we're likely to see, and this was explained in quite a bit of detail in yesterday's Tropical Outlook, the likely chance that we could see a development. The first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season is Alberto, and we may see Alberto become the first name on the list this upcoming week, especially so over the western Gulf of Mexico here, moving into parts of Mexico, possibly even into the Texas coast as well. Now, this is all fed by what you call a Central American gyre, which is essentially a kind of broad scale monsoon trough that kind of develops at this time of the year and also kind of reignites within the autumn season. It's essentially a large scale trough or area of low pressure, and sometimes you get little features that spin off this kind of large scale circulation. And when you've got the MJO, this enhanced area of upward motion, that tends to allow the shower activity to become a little bit more alive and kicking, and it kind of fires up more precipitation. You start to build that moisture over a given area when you've got the MJO in that very part of the world. We see this taking place in parts of the Indian Ocean, for example, and that can sometimes kickstart the monsoon season as well. But what we've got is an area of active Mann-Julian oscillation over the Central America region at the moment here. We're seeing broad-scale thunderstorms becoming a little bit more widespread. What that is going to do is we're actually seeing the jet become a little bit more strengthened over the Pacific. Now, as we start to see a more flat-out jet, now this is the 250 millibar winds and streamlines, and what you've got here is essentially the jet stream, and you can see a more flattened out jet starting to appear initially over the Pacific. But what that's going to start to do is, as you notice here, we've got a little speed max showing up on approach to the northwest coast of North America. I hope you can see this properly. let's kind of just blow this up ever so slightly more to make it a little bit more visible. And I'll try my best not to be too long-winded about this or too technical. We'll kind of scoot through this quickly. But I'm trying to explain the reason why we're starting to see the changes taking place. So initially, in my opinion, we're seeing a Rossby wave starting to kind of progress around the northern hemisphere, possibly in relation to the MJO moving from Indian Ocean through the Pacific and now into the western portion of the Atlantic basin. That then has influence further north into the mid latitude pattern. It starts to change the dynamics of the ridge trough pattern, and therefore that then has a ripple effect right the way around the northern hemispheric pattern. So we've had a lot of blocking during the month of latter April into May. We've had quite a slow jet stream. That is pretty traditional. We start to see the jet stream weaken significantly, especially during the month of May. And then there's a term that's actually quite well known in meteorology called the return of the westerlies, and that's going to be the title of tomorrow's European Outlook, the return of the westerlies, because we start to kind of go into a slight doldrums with regards to weather pattern in our part of the world during the latter half of spring and into the early portions of summer. And then I think the reason for this is we start to see the jet becoming a little stronger once again as we move through the month of June. So we start to reignite the strength of the jet stream after it kind of goes to sleep. And what we are essentially seeing is, like clockwork, the return of the westerlies. And therefore, we're going to start to see a realignment of the ridge trough pattern. Now, I think, like I said before, it's in response to the MJO rotating through the Pacific and into the Atlantic. That's then starting to change the dynamics further north. So what we're going to see is this little dip in the trough here, extending into the western side of North America. What that's doing is that's actually going to force higher pressure over the central and the eastern half of the United States. And we're going to start to see the trough deepen a little bit in the western side of the North American continent. That then starts to have a ripple effect as we pump heat eastwards over North America. That is then going to start to reignite the jet over Canada. And as it does so, that then starts to extend over the continent, and we are starting to see the changes taking place over the UK and Ireland. So it's amazing how it's all interconnected. And look at this here as we move towards Tuesday, the upcoming week. Notice the jet becoming stronger. There's that dip that I'm talking about over the western side of North America. There's the powerful high pressure system or heat dome that is now building into the Great Lakes, into the northeastern half of the United States. This is the hottest spell of 2024 so far. Watch what happens. We start to see that jet becoming stronger further east over North America, and then it starts to enter the Atlantic basin. Well, what do you know? And then as we start to see that, we start to see the same thing taking place over the Atlantic that we did over the Pacific. And therefore, we're starting to see the trough now starting to develop exactly where we've had the ridge for the last several weeks. And this could be the game changer to possible summer warmth as we move towards week 4 of June here. So notice here that as we move into the second half of the upcoming work week and into next weekend, we've got a completely different pattern now starting to show up. Look at the negative, look at the trough over the areas that we've seen ridging, and therefore we'll have to have the ridge somewhere else, and therefore it's over the UK and Ireland. And this is us finally losing that northerly flow, and we're going to start to say hello to warm weather from the south. Now, the caveat to this is the fact that up here in Scotland, possibly Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, we may be underneath the influence of the jet stream. So therefore, we may actually see it a little bit unsettled across the north and west, but closer to the high, southeastern England, into the near continent, we could be talking about some fairly bona fide warm weather as we move through the final week of the month. And then you notice here that we get to the point where we see this kind of sharp dip in the jet, and look at the high building over the UK and Ireland here. Certainly that would be welcome news, and it would be much warmer than we've seen really since, say, back in May when we did have warm weather. I know people are forgetting that May was cold. In fact, we did see some widespread warmth at times, especially further north, but we did see 20s, mid 20s, even upper 20s in parts of the UK during the month of May. So this is not necessarily the warmest air of the entire year, but certainly the warmest in quite some time. So that hopefully explains a little bit about the change in the overall weather pattern and why we're likely to see that change taking place. So let's have a look and see at the global picture with regards to the Middle East. And we'll also talk about other aspects in just a second here. But it looks as if we're going to see we've had very hot conditions. If we actually look at flight radar at the moment here and just do a little tour of current temperatures across parts of the Middle East. This is Baghdad Airport, for example, currently 45 degrees Celsius. Parts of southwestern Iran, we're talking about mid 40s, generally speaking here. So quite interesting to see the heat really starting. We've got it in place. It's not building. It's been there all along. But if you look at the GFS here, this is a temperature forecast of the GFS for the Middle East. So we've got Egypt, we've got Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, into Iran, United Arab Emirates, for example, Oman. You notice here that during the course of tomorrow afternoon, we're expecting temperatures close to 50 Celsius in parts of central and southern Iraq, in the Kuwait, in the southwestern Iran. And as we play through this, nighttime temperatures only going into the 35 to 37 Celsius range, then the rebound, and it looks as if we've got day after day temperatures in the upper 40s and close to 50 Celsius. So this is brutal heat. Quite early on in the summer, may I add, you don't typically see this level of heat. And we've seen it during the month of May, by the way. We've seen it in June so far, and we're likely to continue to see these anomalous warm temperatures. Now, remember, the average is probably around 42, 43, even 44 Celsius. But to get into the 50s, which does, I know it does happen, but the length of time that we're seeing temperatures widely into the mid 40s is pretty significant stuff. And you can see here, even Thursday, temperatures of 50 Celsius in southeastern portions of Iraq here. So we certainly have even 51 Celsius showing up on Friday of the upcoming work week here. So brutal conditions developing and going to continue in a large area of the Middle East deserts. I know it's summer, I know it's hot, but this is pretty brutal stuff. So that is that. Let's have a look and see at the temperature anomaly for the upcoming 5 days across the planet. And you can see here that we have got, let me see just here, bear with me. So this is the upcoming 5-day temperature anomalies of the GFS ensemble. And you can see here that we've actually got below average temperatures over Texas. The reason for that is we've got a massive moisture moving out of Central America, out of the Caribbean, up into the Gulf of Mexico and affecting eastern Mexico and Texas here. Very hot conditions across the majority of the United States, and even Canada seeing warmer than average temperatures as well. Western half warmer than average, eastern half warmer than average. This is actually the 6 to 10 day. I do apologize for that. This is the current upcoming 5-day period. And we've got a distinct chilly Western Canada, warm Alaska, but the heat is going to be concentrated over the eastern 2/3 of the United States in the next week or so here. Looking across the rest of the globe, we've got a pretty hot central and western Australia. We've got cool areas extending from the southeast up the eastern side into southern portions of Queensland in the next 5 days or so. Slight average to slightly below average, where you've got the African waves moving from east to west, hot across the North African continent, very warm across much of Europe, as you can see here, into India. Now, it's going to be interesting to see here. We do have a dry upcoming week in India, but it looks as if the Manjulian oscillation is going to continue to move eastwards. And it looks as if we have a possibility of seeing rain progressing a little bit further north over the Indian subcontinent. So that will be welcome news. Quite a slice of cool notice here, central and eastern portions of Russia. Got warmer than average, especially into south portions of Asia, kind of West Central Asia, I suppose you would say. Obviously, continuing to stay hot across much of the continent, but down across Greece, into Turkey, into the Middle East region here. Like I say, we've got some very, very strong heat building in this region. Got slightly below average temperatures across far western India, extend into Pakistan as well, which is quite interesting. In terms of rainfall, you can see here that we are looking at the upcoming 7 days, which is showing the greatest anomaly anywhere in the face of the planet at the moment for the next 7 days is going to be over that region of Central America. Now, we have got the possibility of a flood disaster developing over Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua over the next week or so here. That region is going to really light up in terms of precipitation. We may see that development in the Western Gulf. We'll look at that in a second. But you can see here this area of pinky color representing upwards of 250 plus millimeters of rain. We could see in excess of 50 inches of rain in parts of this region of Central America in the next week or so. And remember, we've got a lot of mountainous areas here in this region, so this could be a disaster for parts of Central America. We've had quite a distinct drought, especially in the western side of the Caribbean and Mexico. Looks as if we're going to see gradual improvement over Mexico as we go through the next few weeks here. There should be an easing of the drought, hopefully. It's not going to just end, but how often do we see drought end with flood? That is the only downside to that. Sometimes it arrives after weeks, months, even years of not seeing rain in certain areas. How often does it just come too much too quick? That, unfortunately, could be the case in this region here. Now, notice here that we've got above average precipitation across parts of Indonesia, especially across central and western Indonesia. We've got drier than average conditions across parts of Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos. There's India, firmly below average rainfall. But notice what's happening as we progress through the period. We're starting to see the model increase the precipitation. Maybe not necessarily extending all the way up towards Delhi, but we are likely to see the winds with that masquerading high over the western Indian Ocean basin start to crank that southwesterly flow, and we should start to see storm clouds and rain clouds and the monsoon start to build further north with time. Notice a lack of rainfall across Australia, especially across central and southern portions of the South American continent. A real lack of rainfall here as well that you notice. And we also have, obviously, at this time of the year, a lack of rainfall across the Mediterranean, North Africa, and even South Africa, not seeing a great deal of precipitation within the 10 to 16 day period. So let me see what else we can look at here. This is an interesting tweet here by World Climate Service. This was actually back on the 6th of June, and this is relating to snowfall during the past cold season. I know this is kind of veering away quite a bit here, but this is total snowfall, water equivalent percentage of normal between September of 2023 and May of 2024. And you notice here that the Arctic region has seen firmly more than normal snowfall. And the reason why is the Arctic is warmer in the wintertime as opposed to the summertime. And when it's warmer in a cold region, you tend to see more snow. So the reason for that is that we're seeing above average snowfall within the Arctic region, the subarctic region during the course of the winter season because we're seeing a warmer Arctic here. That's something that I actually happened to see a few weeks ago and I've not shown yet because, lo and behold, I forget things, as you well know, and Richard well knows as well. But I thought that would be interesting to show you that tweet in particular. Another interesting tweet here showing that the NAO phase has certainly been trending down, heading into the summer, no doubt with a link to the March 4th major sudden stratospheric warming, and that has been likely the reason for a lot of blocking, especially during the second half of the spring season. And even now, we're seeing that negative NAO pattern. It'll be interesting to see as we go forward. Do we start to see the Arctic Oscillation and North Atlantic Oscillation going positive, or does it maintain itself? That is a question that only time will tell. But it shows here that analogues and statistical guidance, this is obviously World Climate Service, have been flagging a risk of a negative NAO this summer. Dynamic models, not so much here. So that's quite interesting to see the lean towards a more negative NAO. Now remember, we've had, generally speaking, a negative NAO for the past 12 months or so. We've seen that persistent block over Greenland, and it'll be interesting to see, does that persist into the summer. That tends to send the jet further south, and obviously with warm waters in our, well, the general Atlantic basin, but in our part of the world as well, it'll be interesting to see, do we still see this kind of wet theme, or do we start to pull away from that wet theme going into July and into August? Time will tell, obviously. So let me have another little look here. Some interesting tweets here by Disaster News showing the flood situation in parts of Europe has been very, very unsettled across many areas of Europe in recent times here. This is a video of a heavy hailstorm in parts of Switzerland. See here, this has been quite the scene in many parts of Europe actually in recent times. But yeah, so quite an interesting video there of the hailstorm in parts of Switzerland here. Let me quickly skip through. This was Mercia, epic flooding. This is obviously cool, light with warm, and it released a tremendous amount of rainfall, flash flooding in the Mercia area of southeastern Spain. This was the scene at Palma del Mallorca airport. This is inside the airport. You may have seen this. Obviously, a lot of damage caused by the roof leaking and the products in the shop essentially getting destroyed. This was also a scene from Mercia. So very, very nasty conditions. This is also in the city of Naha in Kyushu region of Japan, Okinawa as well, seeing the flooding, and obviously the Asian monsoon is starting to gather pace as well. We'll have a kind of semi-permanent front that then kind of lines up and see major flooding rain as a consequence. This is Okinawa on the island south of mainland Japan. So very, very nasty flooding in parts of Japan. We've also seen more in record-breaking heat, and that has been the case for a long time. So this is the situation, by the way, in Central America. This was Honduras. As that area of rain and thunderstorms continues to grow, sparked by the active phase of the NJO pulse moving through. So that was Honduras, and this is a region, Pueblo of Mexico. So flooding rains moving into parts of Mexico as well, and it's all tied in with the same weather system that is affecting the Gulf of Mexico region and the western portions of the Caribbean. So let's have a quick look and see the forecast for this region here real quick. I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forward here, but I just wanted to show you this. So this is all tied in with moisture that is building in this general region of Central America, and that's going to propagate northwards. And there is a lot of models now starting to show the prospects of a developing low pressure system that may, it's not going to be a big wind maker, but what it will do is it's going to enhance rains in the region here, and we could actually see some very, very serious flooding through the next week or so here. So as we play through this loop, so to give you a rough idea, this is Central America, the Yucatan Peninsula. This is mainland Mexico. As we play through the next several days, we are going to see a feature moving through. Notice here the orangey, reddy colours showing very, very intense rainfall. Remember, this is a mountainous area, so flash flooding will be a real issue. But then you notice here this kind of large envelope of kind of low pressure starting to show its hand over what is very, very warm waters within the Bay of Campeche here. And the model is sniffing out the development of an area of low pressure here. Water temperatures 30, 31 Celsius or 86, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're seeing the development of a circulation showing up here. This is going to drive a tremendous amount of moisture in the eastern Mexico, and into potentially into Texas as well. Now, there's parts of Texas that are desperately needing rain, parts of the Big Bend area, but there's also areas that have seen tremendous amounts of flooding. So we've got big contrasts and extremes across the state of Texas. That can often be the case, but there is areas that need it, there is areas that don't need it, and it looks as if as we move towards the middle portions of this week, we may be talking about Storm Alberto on the charts here, so we'll need to monitor that. But over the next 72 to 96 hours, there is parts of Central America, parts of Mexico that could see massive flooding as a consequence of this buildup of moisture in this region of the West Atlantic Basin here. So certainly check out the tropical outlook if you're interested in looking at the tropics. And let's see what else we can finish with here. So yeah, I've touched on the fact that the monsoon, the Indian monsoon, is likely to start to activate itself in the next couple of weeks. It looks as if it's going to be quiet over the next 5 to 7 days, but with time, we are going to start to hopefully see moisture moving north over the Indian subcontinent. We should start to see rains getting into the heat-stricken areas of northern India. Areas, Delhi and those cities across the north. Drought and extreme heat has been an issue for weeks now on end. And obviously, we're talking about record breaking temperatures. This was an interesting tweet here out of this is weatherman Shubham, I think his name is pronounced. Cherrapunji and Meghalaya recorded 954 millimeters of rain in the last couple of days. Meanwhile, minimum temperatures of only 35 Celsius in parts of Uttar Pradesh. Severe warm nights in parts of the plains with minimum temperatures, like I say, 35.2 Celsius. So that is brutal heat. We need to start seeing the storm clouds moving northwards over India to start to see this heat getting tempered somewhat. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered a lot in the last little while here. So I'm going to end it because it's just after 10 to 5 in the evening, and I know there will be certain folks that will be getting excited about a certain match being played this evening. Let's wait and see what happens with that one. It'll be interesting. I know many of you will be intrigued to see that. Finally, I almost forgot, but I want to show you this here. This is a chart here, World Vegetation Health Change. And this was actually something that I specifically was wanting to talk about, and I almost forgot to do it because it wouldn't be me if I didn't forget something. This is areas, might not be very, very clear to see, but this is change in vegetation over the last 12 months. So areas that have improved and areas that have gotten worse in terms of general health of vegetation. So this is satellite derived moisture within the ground, but it also takes into account, evaporation, hydrology, when things have been planted, different areas of the world, depending on how close you are to the equator or how far away, the growing season. There is a lot of different factors that need to get taken into consideration. But I want to start looking at this in a little bit more detail. Notice here a large area of the United States is seeing greens representing healthier vegetation compared to 12 months ago. So this is the contrast in a 12-month period. You notice here that we've got improvement over much of Western Europe, even into parts of Scandinavia here. The UK, Ireland, France is looking very, very good compared to 12 months ago. And even down across Spain and Portugal, with the exception of the far eastern side of Iberia, we actually have a significant improvement. The decrease in terms of vegetation state has been seen more over eastern portions of Europe here. So no real surprise that we've got drought conditions starting to develop over eastern portions of the continent. And also we've seen some very, very significant improvement over large areas of Western Asia. Notice here that we've had quite a drop off in parts of northern India into Pakistan. Then we've got improvement over Afghanistan, Iran, all the stans, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, is seeing an improvement in terms of vegetation. Africa, there's parts of sub-Saharan Africa that has seen improvement, but large areas of North Africa through the equatorial belt as well, there has been a worsening of the vegetated state in this region. We've seen areas of below the equator that has actually seen improvement over Africa. Parts of South America has actually seen an interesting improvement, which is quite good to see, considering the drought that we've seen across many areas of Brazil, with the exceptions of far south parts of northern Argentina. But there is large areas that have seen the vegetation state worsen in recent times. Then, as we move into the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, no surprise given the drought that we've seen. There is a worse state in vegetation over many areas of Central America, extending into Mexico, into the western, southwestern United States as well. But across the northern half of the United States, into southern Canada, we've seen quite a large area of improvement. This is also quite an interesting chart to show you. This is the UK change between this time last year and this year, and you can see quite a significant change in the UK. So this was June of last year over the UK and Northern Ireland, and this is this year. So that is quite a big change, and there's no surprise given how wet the last 12 months has been for the UK overall. So that's quite an interesting one to see. I wanted to show you France. This is really interesting, actually. This was France this year versus last year, and if I can find it, it certainly would help. But this I thought was really standout. If you think the UK has improved dramatically, let's have a look and see what France is looking like here. So this initially is last year. Just bear with me a second here. This is last year, right? That's looking pretty bad, actually. And this is this year. Isn't that amazing? Especially across central and southern France, which is quite interesting. Look at the amount of blues there showing the contrast. You don't get much of a bigger contrast than that. So these are pretty cool, aren't they? This is actually a website here, NESDIS Star Center for Satellite Applications and Research. Go to that if you're interested in this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to show you different things and that may or may not be of interest. So anyway, I'm going to cut it there. There is likely stuff that I've forgotten as per usual, but nonetheless, we're approaching 5 o'clock. People have things to do. They've got their Sunday roast perhaps to attend to. So let's have a quick check through the live chat and I will round things up. So I hope you enjoyed today's content. Let me know in the comments, did you enjoy today's content? Is there something that perhaps you want discussed? I'll try and do that over time. So thank you very much for everybody's interaction in today's live chat. I hope you've enjoyed today's. I hope it hasn't been too long-winded. I hope it's not been too back and forth. But nonetheless, it is. There's a lot of things that I try and cover here on the live stream. So yeah, thank you very much. I really greatly appreciate everybody's interaction, tuning in, taking the time out of their busy schedules to listen to me waffle on for the best part of an hour. We still have 33 concurrent viewers. Have you hit that like button? I would greatly appreciate it if you could do so. It would help me out greatly. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. If you've enjoyed today, if you're new, a very warm welcome to you, and I certainly hope you can subscribe and hit that notification bell because it means you don't miss any future upload. So a thank you to Richard, thanks to Paul James, Ian McKee, our good friend Gavin Partridge. Thank you very much to you, the Hazelnut. Thank you very much as well for tuning in this afternoon. And let me just scroll through to see Mark Kinnish. Thank you very much, my friend, for always tuning in. Do greatly appreciate your support and interaction here on the channel. And I may or may not be back next week. My wife and I are actually attending a concert down at the Usher Hall in Edinburgh next weekend, so there may be a pretty good chance that there is no live stream next Sunday. But I'm going to have a wee think. May try and move a couple of things around, but there may or may not be a stream next Sunday. But I can certainly keep you up to date during the upcoming week as to whether that will go ahead or not. So I don't know if I have remembered to give everybody a shout out. If I haven't, I do apologise for that. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let's see how England does in the Euros tonight. And I'll be back again tomorrow with the upcoming week of European Outlook. So stay tuned for that. Interesting times. Be interesting to see whether we can get summer finally back into the UK pattern. It has been on high heat. It has been pretty much non-existent for the last several weeks, and we may be flirting with that Azores high as we move towards the final week of the month here. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you tomorrow with the European Outlook. Bye for now.